Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, the water polo team looks to rebound from a rocky opening weekend.
And the women's tennis team took on a pair of Cincinnati-based foes. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Jimmy Sutton.
And I'm Tamar Scher. IUSTV reporters Caleb Kaufman and Maxwell Sterling Glenn caught up with Indiana Water Polo's head coach Ryan Castle to discuss the team's previous trip to UC Santa Barbara and their upcoming tournament at Stanford.
Last weekend was very up and down for us. We started off really well. UC San Diego, a very tough team, and we've managed to grind out a win. The next game we hit UC Santa Barbara, which was the home team, and I think we were definitely a little bit too comfortable, a little bit too complacent, and we put ourselves in a hole early, and then it was kind of like quicksand. The more we struggled against it, the more mistakes we made, and the score just kind of got out of hand. We're definitely very disappointed with ourselves in that game. Next week we'll start working on the teams that we're going to be playing. UC Berkeley have one or two really stud international athletes, particularly at center and the left-handed player. They've also got a good goalkeeper. Moving on to Stanford, they've got 2 or 3 ex-Olympians, particularly the 2 Fisher sisters, which are extremely high-quality athletes that can win a game for themselves on their own. And then we're going to finish up with UC Davis, which is always a tough team. They're top 10. We're playing number 2 and number 3 in the nation. So it's going to be a really good weekend for us. And then we finish off with number 10. That's going to be challenging, but I'm just excited for us to compete. And the more mistakes we make at that level, the less mistakes we're going to make moving down the line, especially later in the season and next year.
IU will kick off the Stanford Invitational on Saturday at 2:30 against number 4 California.
Over the weekend, the women's tennis team competed in a pair of dual meets without their number 1 player, Madison Appel. The short-handed Hoosiers split the day, falling to Xavier 4-0 and mounting a comeback to defeat Cincinnati 4-3. Indiana challenged Xavier as three single matches ended in tiebreakers, but the Musketeers were able to outlast the Hoosiers after finding themselves down 3-0. Jelly Bozovic, Caitlin Bernard, and Michelle McCamey all secured wins to set up Natalie Whalen's match-winning set. The Hoosiers will return to the court this weekend for a trio of dual meets against Western Michigan, Marquette, and Butler.
On Wednesday night, the Hoosier basketball team dropped their 7th straight game, this time falling against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights on the road. Our Austin Matricardi is joined in the studio by beat reporter Dan Black as Indiana continues to slide down the Big Ten standings.
Thanks, Tamar. The Hoosiers have won just 1 game since the start of the new year on January 3rd when they hosted Illinois. Since then, it's been loss after loss, each brutal in its own way. From a nail-biter on the road at Maryland to a beatdown in West Lafayette to Wednesday's implosion in Piscataway. It's truly been a year to forget for Archie Miller's squad thus far. Dan, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
What's been the biggest issue for this team recently, and how do you think they can fix it?
Well, you can't really just put it on one thing in particular. I'd probably have to say it's definitely the shooting that's been the obvious issue more than anything. The defense has not been that big of a deal. I mean, you go back to the Michigan game, they held Michigan to 69 points. It's not bad at all, especially against a top 5 team. But it's really just the same thing is harped on over and over again after games. Nothing's falling from them. You look at how they shoot from 3, it's not even bad shots, just nothing's going in. And then it changes the entire way they can play offense because teams are just going down low and waiting for them to come inside and then playing really strong defense and then forcing turnovers, forcing missed shots. So it's really just the offensive end that they need to figure out. And obviously it's been the biggest struggle, and if they can't figure it out soon, when are they going to?
With the recent struggles, there have been a lot of people trying to figure out, who's causing this, who can we blame? Who do you think is the most to blame with the IU basketball program?
It's so hard to just put one person on the chopping block, really. It's a lot of things. I would say it's more towards the bench guys not being able, those that are able, not the guys that are injured and stuff like that or suspended. The guys that come off the bench that did contribute earlier in the season, the Evan Fitzers, the Demezy Andersons, the guys who were able to hit shots from deep, be able to move the ball a little more, them not contributing when they get their opportunities just puts more pressure on Romeo Langford, puts more pressure on Juwan Morgan, who already has to carry the entire weight of the team on his shoulders. So if I were to blame anybody, it would probably be the bench guys, just because they need some sort of help when Juwan or Romeo are starting to get tired and starting to get fatigued towards the middle part of the game, especially towards the second half. So I put it kind of on them more than anybody else.
Year one of the Miller era, no NCAA tournament appearance. Year two of the Miller era, it's starting to look like there won't be an NCAA tournament appearance. Is it time for people to start worrying about whether or not Archie Miller's the guy here in Bloomington?
No, it's way too early. We're not even done year two yet, and he's still got another great class coming in next year. I always like to sort of give especially a college coach 3 years, get a couple recruiting classes in. There's always going to be a lot of turnover and stuff. So, next year with the class that he's bringing in and with basically the same team that they have now returning for the most part, if he can't not only get them to the tournament but make a decent run, then I think it's time for people to start worrying a little bit. But for right now, dealing with all the injuries, dealing with suspensions, dealing with all the kind of stuff that they are right now, it's hard to place the blame only on him. Obviously, it's college. There's no one else you can really fire or get rid of. You can't fire a college athlete. But for right now, you just gotta ride the wave, ride the ship, know that it's gonna get better, hopefully, because he went through the same type of thing before he came to IU, where his first couple of years it was a struggle. Then we obviously turned it around, and that's what ended up having him land in Bloomington. So you just gotta, as I say, trust the process a little bit, and it'll all work out.
Dan, once again, thanks for coming in to talk a little hoops. The Hoosiers will continue their season when they return to the court on Saturday. They'll travel to East Lansing to take on a highly touted Michigan State team as a part of ESPN's College Game Day. Back to you, Tamar.
Thanks, Austin. The Hoosiers will look to avoid their 8th straight loss on Saturday. Tip-off between Indiana and Michigan State is set for 6 p.m.
Over the weekend, the wrestling team hit the mat, hosting one of the best teams in the country. Our Stephen Walker has the recap.
IU Wrestling knew they were facing a tough challenge when they faced the top-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions Sunday afternoon, but being in Wilkinson Hall made them feel like they had a chance at a huge upset. Unfortunately, this Penn State team was unlike anything they had seen before. Wilkinson Hall was as loud, if not louder, than its grand opening, but it almost seemed like an IU disadvantage. Penn State fans traveled well and packed the place, making it seem like a home match for the Nittany Lions. The Penn State wrestlers used that crowd to propel them to a 35-9 victory. IU got the start that they wanted as Norman Conley defeated his opponent 5-1. A member of IU's ROTC program, Conley got tons of support from his fellow ROTC cadets.
It's really nice of them to come out and support their fellow cadet. They're a great organization that's allowed me to compete as a D1 athlete and be an ROTC cadet.
Wilkinson Hall was loud, and it almost seemed like the Hoosiers could pull out a W after all. Unfortunately, that would be their only victory on the day, as Penn State's experience proved to be too much for IU to handle. 4 of Penn State's wrestlers were ranked number 1 in their respective classes, and 5 other Nittany Lions were ranked in the top 20. While the Hoosiers did suffer their worst loss since Ohio State, Escobedo is confident his team will reach the level of these Big Ten powerhouses.
For sure, I want this program to be that good, and even better. I think we got to shoot for the skies, shoot for the stars, and hopefully we can get there. And I know my staff and I are going to work as hard as we can to get there. But yeah, I believe it. I may be crazy, but I believe it. I believe that we can be the best program in the country, and I'm going to work every day like we are going to be one.
The Hoosiers have almost 2 weeks off before back-to-back home meets on February 8th and 9th versus 18th ranked Rutgers and 22nd ranked Stanford. Hopefully they can use that time to rest up and send a statement to the wrestling world. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Stephen Walker.
The Hoosiers are now 4-9 on the season and just 1-5 in the Big Ten.
When Hoosier Sports Night continues, our Drew Fry breaks down Will Pekarski's meaning to the men's tennis team.
And we've got the preview of IU Swimming and Diving's upcoming dual meet against Louisville. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night. Out of the 7 returning players on the IU men's tennis team, 6 of them have already picked up wins for the Hoosiers this season. The other is a junior whose contributions come in many different ways. IUS TV's Drew Fry has the story.
Will Pekarsky. You might not know the name, but if you've been to an IU men's tennis match within the past few years, you've probably seen him, and you've definitely heard him pumping up his teammates through every match.
Everyone plays better when they're having fun, and that's what I try to bring, that fun and that intensity, that energy.
Pekarsky is a Bloomington native and has had his sights set on being a Hoosier since watching his first IU match over a decade ago.
And you just see the guys just bombing serves, screaming, pumping up, high-fiving, just like having that unbelievable energy, and it was just so much fun to come and watch, and it's like, yeah, I want to be there, I want to be part of that.
Now in his 3rd season, Pekarsky has never been a regular starter, but he is known for his passion, his energy, and finding ways to contribute both on and off the court.
I was helping warm Tony up for the singles, and they needed a hoo-hoo-hoo, so of course I'm going to sprint on over and give him a big old hoo-hoo-hoo and to help the guys pull out the doubles. And it's just the art of like giving back to the team. I mean, they all give me so much. I want to give them as much as I can. It might not always be on the court, but if it's off the court, that's what I have to offer at that moment, and that's what I'm going to give them.
Pekarsky is a key part of this Hoosier tennis team, whether the casual fan notices or not. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Drew Fry.
Pekarsky and the Hoosiers are currently 3-2 on the season, with upcoming matchups against Wright State and Middle Tennessee.
On Thursday night, the women's basketball team took on Rutgers in Piscataway. The Hoosiers fell to the Scarlet Knights, dropping their record to 16-6 on the season. They've now lost 4 of their last 5 games. The Hoosiers will get back on the court on Sunday when they travel to Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers.
The 3rd-ranked men's and 11th-ranked women's swim and dive teams are back in action Friday for Senior Day in a dual meet against Louisville at the Councilman Billingsley Aquatic Center. The Hoosier men hope to continue their dual meet win streak after their 29th consecutive win over Purdue last weekend. The women's team will also carry some momentum into this meet as they defeated Purdue as well. Michael Breingar will be one to watch this weekend after being named the Big Ten Freshman of the Week alongside Jessica Parado, who was named Big Ten Diver of the Week. The meet will kick off at 2 o'clock on BTN+. Don't forget to like our page, IUS TV Sports on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at IUS TV Sports. For Tamara Scher, I'm Jimmy Sutton. We'll see you next week.